Welcome everybody to the 2023 College Football Award Ceremony. And we're going to run through this pretty quick. Um, get you all the different awards and how the votes went. A lot of participation this year. We're excited to see who panned out and who won certain awards. We'll start off with the Coach of the Year. For the fifth straight season, Notre Dame's John Nickel took home the Home Depot Coach of the Year award. This year he had 14 votes, followed by Alabama's coach who ended up with 5 votes. So it wasn't very close. For the fifth year in a row, John Nickel, your Coach of the Year. Next up is the Ray Guy for the best punter. And this goes to Stanford's Richard Curtis. Curtis had a really good year for Stanford, punted the ball a lot of times, put it inside the 20 a bunch of times, probably what garnered the award. He ended up with 13 first place votes, followed by Daniel Collins of Florida State, who got 10. Alright, so next up, we'll go to the Lou Groza Award for the nation's top kicker. And this is going to be Alan Matta from Washington. An interesting vote here because Dong from Syracuse had a lot more field goals, but Matta was a lot more accurate, and so he ended up getting the award for his accuracy, only missing a few kicks on the whole season. He ended up with 10 votes, and both Kyle Brinza and Dong Huddleston ended up with 6 votes, so it's pretty close. Next up, we got the Butkus Award winner for the nation's top linebacker. And this year, the award goes to Syracuse's weak side linebacker, John Chaplin. Chaplin had a monster season, ended up with 7 sacks, 3 interceptions, and 54 tackles. So he's basically an all-around type of guy, whereas some guys were better in coverage, some guys were better, at getting to the quarterback. But I think Chaplin's done well transitioning to this new code, and I think he even caught their team by surprise at how well he did. So he's the Butkus Award winner for the top linebacker. And moving on, for the Lombardi Award, which is the award for the best lineman or linebacker combined. And this one goes to Rutgers' Clarence Mueller. Here's a player that got a lot of publicity from their staff. They're really excited about this young player. He was neck and neck with Hayes and Winovich for the sack title all the way up until the last week, and he went off against Ohio State with like 4 sacks and ended up taking home the sack title with 27. So a good season for him. He ended up with 14 votes, followed by the Butkus Award winner Chaplin, who ended up with 9 votes. So it was pretty close there. Alright, so next up, we got the Bronco Nagurski Award, and this is for the top defensive player overall, no matter the position. And this goes to John Chaplin, who not only was an all-around stud for Syracuse, but he led their team to the #1 seed. A lot of it was due to their defense, because I think their offense struggled a lot of the season, so Chaplin was definitely a mainstay on that defense, and it's no surprise that he ended up getting the Defensive Player of the Year. So congratulations to him for getting the Bronco Nagurski Award. Next up is the Dave Rimington Award for the nation's top center. And this goes to Rutgers' Oliver Steele, another Rutgers player. Steele had a really good season. Played almost every down, over 1,300 plays, which is really good for a center. Didn't allow any sacks, and had a real good job. Only got 5 penalties, which is pretty solid for how many plays he did. It wasn't very close in this race. He garnered 19 votes compared to the second place Houlihan from Florida, who garnered 5 votes. So congratulations to Oliver Steele from Rutgers for winning the Remington Award for Best Center. Next up is the Outland Award trophy, which goes to the top offensive lineman in the country. And this is going to be Santos Ham of Florida. Florida's offensive line was in rebuild mode after last season, and they did a really good job of turning it around. They had the second guy on the Remington in Houlihan, and then getting Ham to win the best lineman of the year is pretty impressive. He like Steele had over 1,300 plays, 0 sacks allowed, and he ended up with 15 votes, followed by the veteran graduate transfer Michael Smith from Oklahoma State, who ended up with 12 votes. So this was kind of close for most of the race until the very end, and Ham ends up winning by 3 votes. Next up, oh, you know what? I'm gonna head back because I think I skipped an award. I skipped the Jim Thorpe Award. The Jim Thorpe Award goes to the nation's top defensive back, and that's going to be Marcelino Rausch from Oklahoma State. Here's a player that for most of the year was atop the interceptions lead. Him and teammate Juan Hoke have been staples on that defense for years, kind of trading off who does better. And Rausch just had a monster season: 64 tackles, 20 knockdowns, 13 interceptions, and only 38% completions allowed. Really good season. Following him is Hodge from Syracuse, who had an amazing 29.5% completion allowed percentage. He ended up with 7 votes. So Rausch won this race pretty easily. Congratulations to Marcelino Rausch from Oklahoma State for winning the Jim Thorpe. All right, we'll move back to where we were, and I think we're back up at the John Mackey Award for the nation's top tight end. It's kind of odd not to see Utah's guy. Over the last few years, he was a staple for this award, and so we got some new faces this year. This is a big year for tight ends, and so you saw some stats just take off. This was a really hard race. There was 3 or 4 guys that were neck and neck. Kind of interesting to see. John Omaya ends up being the winner of this award. Omaya is a former wide receiver. First he was a tight end, then a wide receiver. Now he's back to tight end. He just came on, really led that offense. 18 touchdowns, almost 1,700 yards. But this was close. He had 11 votes, and in second was LSU's Johnny Simmons, who had a really good season himself, with 10 votes. And so he only won by 1 vote. And then followed by Brett Contreras from Georgia, the H-back, who had a really good season with over 100 catches. And then Harry Heaps ended up in 4th, who broke the record for most yards by a tight end this year. But I think his drops kind of shied people away from voting for him as much. But really good race with the tight ends. And so congratulations to John Omaya from BYU for this award. Next up is the Biletnikoff, an award that certain guys had been dominating for years. Tony Jones was on the list, William Brock, Lon Gordon. A lot of these guys you're not seeing this year with the changes. But one thing you are seeing is Tennessee guys are still putting up big numbers, and it's not surprising that wide receiver Charles Shackelford, he's kind of like the heir apparent to William Brock. Shackelford had a great season, just under 2,000 yards, 19 touchdowns. He ended up winning this award pretty easily with 20 votes, followed by Notre Dame's Chase Claypool, who ended up with 5 votes. So congratulations to Shackelford for winning the Biletnikoff Award. And next up is the Doak Walker Award for the nation's best running back. This is a player that I want to say, let's see, let me go check it real quick. Since I got it open. Alright, so in 2021, this player won the award, and that's Terry Polley from Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's a really good balanced team. They put up a lot of yards through the air and as well as on the ground, and Polley seems to be the mainstay. Small scat back type of guy, listed as a wide receiver, but been getting the bulk of the carries since they've started. And so Terry Polley with 16 votes, followed by Dexter Williams from Notre Dame, who had 5 votes, which is interesting because Dexter Williams was the backup at Notre Dame, but he put up some really good stats this year. So congratulations to Terry Polley for winning the award, the Doak Walker Award for nation's best running back. Alright, so next up, let's see what we got. We got the Davey O'Brien Award for the nation's top quarterback. And this was one of the cooler races this year because there were so many good quarterbacks. Um, you had record-breaking seasons from a bunch of guys, but above all was Notre Dame's Leslie Jocks. He just put up, he tied DeMartini for the record for most yards in a season with 7,606. He had 81 touchdown passes, which is a record. He also had 2 touchdown rushing, a little over 200 yards rushing. So he was probably the best of the running quarterbacks. And only 15 interceptions, and his rating ended up right around 130 for most of the year. And so this award, he got 24 first place votes, and followed by Douglas Seward from Alabama, who had a really awesome season in Tuscaloosa. He had 4 votes. So it wasn't very close, just because I think towards the end of the season, Jocks just started separating himself and took this award. So congratulations to Leslie Jocks for winning the Davey O'Brien Award for the nation's top quarterback. That brings us to the Maxwell Award. Pretty much the same guys were going for the nation's best player, and Leslie Jocks ended up taking this as well. This, I want to say, is let me see. So this is the 4th year in a row Notre Dame has had a player taking the Maxwell Award. The former Tony Jones has won the previous three of them. So Leslie Jocks moves into this space for 2023 for the nation's best player. So congratulations to Leslie Jocks. And that brings us to the big award that we've all been waiting for, the nation's Heisman Trophy. And this is a big award because it doesn't just represent the best stats, but it also kind of looks at how a player influences a team. And so this was a tricky one because if you look at some of the guys like Douglas Seward, he's really important to that team. So is he more important than the statistic differential between him and Jocks? Or you look at like Jonathan DeMartini, who's basically the GOAT of college football, MFN college football, who's won the award twice and just puts up monster season after monster season. You almost expect it from him, so it doesn't look as big. But he had a big year and led Tennessee to a bye week and number 2 seed in the Super Conference. And then guys like Austin Kendall, who came back on the scene after sitting a couple years and just led Oklahoma to a great season. And then you even got a guy like Charles Shackelford, who, with the new code, wide receivers are kind of getting left by the wayside. You're seeing the tight ends taking a lot of the statistics, and so for him to put up 19 touchdowns and almost 2,000 yards is really impressive. And so you kind of look at these guys in total, and it makes for a good race. But with all that said, the award goes to Notre Dame's Leslie Jocks, and I think it's pretty worthy, if you ask me. He put up, some of the best stats you've ever seen from a quarterback in the NCAA league. Plus, his team went 16-0. The downfall, you could say, is maybe he's not as important to that team just because they have so many good players. But when you're the quarterback, you're basically the catalyst of an offense, and this is an offense that was head and shoulders above the other teams as far as yardage, and it all kind of stemmed from Leslie Jocks. Not only is he mobile, but he's got a good arm. Doesn't take as many sacks as some of the guys. Can get out in space and run the ball. Very good player. And so congratulations to Leslie Jocks on winning 2023 Heisman Trophy. And that's going to conclude our awards. Thanks for everybody for watching, and we'll look forward to next year when we get the 2024 Heisman. All right, we'll see you guys later.